Jessica and Mark Miller seemed like the perfect family, their children's laughter filling every corner of their home, but one chilling TikTok video would turn their picture-perfect life into a nightmare that no one could have imagined. Jessica Miller's life looked perfect from the outside. She lived in a quaint suburban neighborhood, in a house painted soft cream with a manicured lawn and flower beds that bloomed in vibrant colors each spring. The neighbors often smiled when they saw her walking her children, 7-year-old Lily and 4-year-old Noah, to school, or pushing the stroller down the quiet streets on sunny afternoons. Her husband, Mark, appeared devoted and attentive, often helping Jessica with weekend chores or attending school events. Social media painted an even brighter picture. On TikTok, Jessica's account had grown rapidly, her follower count soaring into the tens of thousands. She posted videos that seemed wholesome and heartwarming. Children's laughter ringing through the house as they painted together, baking sessions where flour covered countertops and tiny hands, and weekend adventures in local parks. Each clip was carefully framed, capturing the idealized image of family life. Friends and followers praised her creativity and parenting, leaving comments that ranged from admiration to envy. The streams of positive feedback only fueled Jessica's desire to maintain the perfect persona. Her home, meticulously decorated with pastel colors and cozy furnishings, became her stage. Each morning began with routine smiles, cheerful greetings, and picture-perfect breakfast scenes, all captured on her phone to post later. Jessica seemed to glide effortlessly through the role of the devoted mother and loving wife. Yet, despite the outward perfection, subtle signs of strain and tension lurked beneath the surface. Those close to her occasionally noticed fleeting moments of unease. Her eyes would linger too long on a blank corner of the room, her laughter sometimes a beat too delayed, or a quiet sigh escaping her lips when she thought no one was watching. She often retreated to her room under the pretense of organizing her videos or writing captions, yet she spent hours scrolling social media feeds, comparing herself to other mothers and influencers. The pressure to maintain this flawless image grew heavier with each passing day. At night, when the house fell silent, Jessica's restless mind replayed every interaction, every comment, and every judgment she imagined from the online world. The children's giggles that once brought her joy sometimes felt like a reminder of responsibilities she feared she could no longer manage. Mark noticed her growing distance, but attributed it to stress or fatigue, unaware of the deepening turbulence within her psyche. It was in these quiet, private moments that Jessica began to plan, to imagine scenarios that no one could have predicted. Her outward cheerfulness remained intact, her videos still sunny and vibrant, fooling followers into believing that everything was as it should be. In reality, the pressure and obsession with maintaining this curated life were slowly consuming her. Even minor disruptions, a spilled drink, a misbehaving child, or a delayed comment on her TikTok, could ignite anxiety and frustration that festered in silence. While the world admired her life, Jessica was trapped in a private struggle, a delicate balance between performance and reality, joy and darkness, love and an unsettling emptiness she could not escape. The contrast between what was seen and what was felt set the stage for the tragedy that would later unfold, a chilling reminder that perfection is often only skin-deep and that appearances can hide profound turmoil. 2 days after posting her cheerful backyard video, Jessica uploaded something entirely different. It was a short clip, no longer than 30 seconds, yet its impact would be devastating. The video opened with her standing in the middle of the kitchen, the room bathed in the harsh glow of the overhead lights. Her children played quietly in the background, unaware of the tension in the air. Jessica's face was pale, her eyes unusually still, almost lifeless. She held a knife casually in her hand, resting it on the counter behind her, an object that had never appeared in her videos before. The caption she added read, "Family time is important. Treasure every moment. To her followers, it seemed cryptic, almost like a twisted artistic statement. Comments flooded in within minutes, some praising her creativity, others expressing a vague unease. A few people reported the clip as disturbing, but it remained online, attracting millions of views within hours. Some viewers found it hard to look away, a hypnotic mix of normality and threat that sent chills down the spine. Behind the camera, Jessica had prepared meticulously. She framed the shot to ensure the knife was visible without drawing attention to herself too overtly. She adjusted the lighting and angles until they perfectly captured the contrast between the seemingly innocent children and the ominous presence of the blade. Experts who later analyzed the footage noted subtle cues: the rigidity of her posture, the blankness in her eyes, and the strange calmness that accompanied a highly unsettling scene. It was a psychological puzzle. The video was at once ordinary and horrifying, a signal no one fully recognized at the time. Social media theorists and true crime analysts would later describe it as a warning, masked as performance, a glimpse into a mind unraveling before the world. That night, Jessica continued to act normal, preparing dinner, assisting the children with homework, and chatting briefly with Mark. Nothing in her behavior hinted at the plan that had begun to form. Yet the tension simmered beneath the surface, a dangerous cocktail of obsession, frustration, and premeditation. The video was not a spur-of-the-moment creation. It was the culmination of hours of planning, filming, and editing. She knew how to present herself online, and she used those skills to lure her audience into a false sense of normalcy, making the horror she was about to unleash even more incomprehensible. By the time the first viewers commented on the unsettling nature of the clip, it was already too late to intervene. Jessica's carefully constructed world remained intact, a facade hiding the storm within. The viral video became a digital record of the moment before the tragedy, a chilling artifact that would later horrify investigators, psychologists, and viewers alike. Social media users shared the clip widely, unaware that the next scene in Jessica Aye's story would turn it from a disturbing spectacle into a nightmare etched into public consciousness. The line between performance and reality blurred, leaving a haunting question in its wake. Could anyone have seen what was coming? Or was it inevitable once the darkness had taken hold? Night fell over the Miller household with an unsettling quiet. Outside, the neighborhood lights flickered softly, and the occasional hum of a passing car punctuated the darkness. Inside, the home appeared ordinary, but a storm of violence was about to erupt behind its closed doors. Jessica moved with a careful, deliberate precision, her actions methodical as if rehearsed for weeks. Every step she took was measured, every sound suppressed. The children slept in their rooms, unaware that this night would mark the end of their innocent lives. Mark, exhausted from a long day at work, was in his office catching up on emails, completely oblivious to the horror approaching. Jessica had prepared everything meticulously. She had ensured all entrances were locked from the inside, windows secured, and the home arranged so there would be no interruption. In the kitchen, knives were placed in specific positions, each within reach, and every item that could create noise or obstruction was removed. She moved from room to room quietly, checking each child, ensuring that nothing would disturb her plan. When Mark finally stood to stretch, he noticed a stillness in the house, a silence that was heavier than normal. The laughter and chatter that usually accompanied family evenings were gone, replaced by a suffocating tension. By then, Jessica had begun the unthinkable. In a flash of calculated violence, she attacked her sleeping family, moving with a terrifying efficiency. Her actions were deliberate, each moment executed with an almost clinical detachment. The children, startled awake, had no time to comprehend the danger before it was too late. Mark tried to intervene, but the element of surprise left him defenseless against the sudden and brutal assault. The house, moments ago filled with warmth and laughter, became a scene of chaos and blood. Objects fell, The muffled cries of the victims were brief, and then silence returned. Jessica wiped her hands, checked the rooms, and arranged the scene in a manner that would shock even seasoned investigators. There was a chilling order to the horror. The rooms were staged, as if she were preserving a grotesque snapshot of the family she had destroyed. Every detail seemed intentional, from the placement of the bodies to the positioning of objects nearby. Outside, neighbors heard nothing. The quiet suburban night carried on, oblivious to the tragedy inside. Later, investigators would describe the scene as both methodical and surreal. It was not a crime of passion in the conventional sense. It was a calculated act, executed by someone who had planned each step meticulously. The TikTok video she had posted days earlier, viewed by millions, now took on a horrifying new significance. What had seemed like an unsettling artistic choice or a cryptic joke was, in reality, a prelude to this act of extreme violence. The juxtaposition of online performance and real-world horror left experts and viewers alike, grappling with the terrifying reality. Jessica had blurred the line between social media fantasy and her darkest impulses, turning a curated online image into a deadly blueprint. By the time the first signs of the crime were discovered, the unthinkable had already occurred, leaving behind a silent house, a broken family, and a world struggling to understand how a picture-perfect life could unravel in such a catastrophic way. The next morning, the world outside the Miller home continued as usual, unaware of the horror that had unfolded inside. It was a neighbor, concerned after noticing the mail piling up and the children's usual morning laughter absent, who finally called the police. Officers arrived promptly, their first impressions of the quiet suburban street belying the tragedy awaiting them. When they forced entry into the house, the first thing they noticed was the eerie silence. There were no signs of struggle in the hallways or common areas, just a stillness that pressed down on them like a physical weight. The kitchen, normally bright and welcoming, was now the scene of a nightmare. The smell of antiseptic and faint traces of blood permeated the air, a stark contrast to the domestic warmth that had once filled the home. Investigators immediately recognized the meticulous nature of the crime. Jessica had arranged the rooms with an unsettling precision, almost as if she were trying to preserve the final moments of her family in a grotesque tableau. Sticky notes with cryptic messages were scattered throughout, and her phone, still logged into TikTok, sat prominently on the counter. The viral video she had posted days earlier loomed over the scene like a dark prophecy. Analysts later noted that the footage had revealed subtle warning signs: the stillness in Jessica's eyes, the carefully placed knife, the unnatural calmness of the environment. It was a window into her disturbed mind, one that had been ignored or misinterpreted by millions online. Forensic teams worked methodically, photographing every angle, collecting evidence, and reconstructing the sequence of events. They found that Jessica had prepared the home for hours, removing obstacles, locking doors, and controlling every variable to ensure there would be no interference. Her planning was precise, and the cold efficiency of her actions made the crime even more horrifying. Detectives also discovered journals and notes detailing her growing obsession with social media validation and her escalating anxiety over maintaining the perfect image. Each entry offered glimpses into a mind that had slipped further into detachment from reality. Psychologists who later reviewed the material suggested that Jessica's online persona had become a stage for her inner turmoil, a mask that hid a dangerous and unstable mind. News of the crime spread rapidly. The video she had posted was dissected by millions, shared across platforms, and analyzed for any signs of forewarning. Viewers were horrified to realize that the tragedy had been foreshadowed, even if subtly, in her content. Social media became a tool for both fascination and fear, a digital mirror reflecting the darkness behind a curated life. For the neighbors and friends who once admired Jessica, the discovery was shattering. The woman they had waved to, whose children had laughed in the yard just days earlier, was responsible for a horror that seemed incomprehensible. The investigation became not only a search for answers, but also a cautionary tale, highlighting the dangers of ignoring signs of mental distress and the unsettling power of social media to mask reality. By the time authorities secured the scene and began the long process of piecing together the truth, the Miller home had transformed from a place of warmth and laughter into a haunting symbol of hidden despair, meticulous planning, and the devastating consequences of a life unraveling in silence. Jessica was arrested later that same day, sitting silently on the living room couch as officers led her out of the Miller home. Her face was blank, devoid of expression, and the calm detachment she displayed unnerved even seasoned law enforcement. She offered no resistance, answered no questions, and seemed almost unaware of the gravity of what had occurred. The public watched in disbelief as the news unfolded. Headlines described a seemingly ordinary mother who had meticulously planned and executed the unthinkable, leaving her entire family dead. Social media erupted with shock, fear, and speculation. Psychologists and true crime experts were called upon to analyze the case, attempting to understand how someone could present such a cheerful and perfect online persona while hiding such dark intentions. Investigators discovered that Jessica's obsession with her social media image had played a significant role in her mental state. The hours she spent crafting the perfect videos, the constant comparisons to other mothers, and the pressure to appear flawless had created a fragile mental equilibrium. The viral TikTok video she posted days before the murders was studied extensively. Analysts concluded that while it seemed cryptic at the time, it had been a premeditated warning, a glimpse into her deteriorating psyche. The trial revealed layers of complexity in her motives. Testimonies from friends and neighbors highlighted how Jessica had appeared loving and devoted, yet subtle behaviors, withdrawal, intense focus on social media, moments of blank detachment, had been overlooked or dismissed. Experts testified about the psychological strain caused by the pressure of maintaining a public image, combined with underlying mental health issues. The courtroom was tense as the details of the crime were revealed. Evidence showed how meticulously she had planned each step, locking doors, positioning knives, and even staging the rooms afterward. The methodical nature of the murders shocked jurors, leaving them grappling with the contrast between the online persona and the real-life actions. Beyond the courtroom, the community struggled to process the tragedy. Neighbors, friends, and online followers were haunted by the images of the once happy family and the stark reality that social media can hide more than it reveals. Discussions emerged about the signs of mental illness, the dangers of obsession with digital approval, and the subtle clues that, if noticed, might have prevented the deaths. Despite her arrest and the impending trial, Jessica's story continued to dominate headlines and social media feeds. Clips of her viral video circulated, analyzed, and dissected, a haunting reminder of the blurred lines between performance and reality. Documentaries, news programs, and online discussions turned the case into a cautionary tale about the masks people wear, the hidden struggles behind curated images, and the potentially deadly consequences of ignoring warning signs. Psychologists emphasized that the tragedy was not only a result of mental illness, but also of a society that sometimes rewards appearances over authenticity, where validation is measured in likes and views rather than genuine connection. In the end, Jessica's arrest did not bring closure, but instead left lingering questions about the fragile line between perception and reality. Her story became a chilling lesson. The world can never fully know what hides behind the perfect smiles in photographs or the joyful videos on social media. The Miller home, once filled with laughter, now stood as a silent, haunting reminder of how appearances can deceive and how tragedy can emerge from the most unexpected places.